And we are live again. Welcome back today. Second day or third day in the launch week, but it's kind of like the second day, I think. Today we are here with Viola. Hi, Viola.
Hello, nice to be back at the live
Yeah,
again.
it's the second time, the second show for you, right?
Yes, it is. First time
Cool.
was awesome. Second time is going to be awesome. So yeah, very looking forward to it.
For everyone who doesn't know, who are you at WunderGraph, and what is your main responsibility? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I was actually reflecting on this a couple days ago. It's been a full year almost, give or take a couple weeks at WunderGraph. And here at WunderGraph, I'm tasked with building up the customer success team. And it's been absolutely amazing. Startup phase is probably the best phase to be in because you're able to get into the crunch time and work with customers on a daily basis on a variety of projects. And so, yeah, what I'm doing is bringing a little bit of organization and structure into the work that we do with customers, from almost pre-sale all the way to their life cycle with us. So yeah.
Did you kind of rearrange your, like, normally you sit different in that room. Today you want to show that you're
That I
smart
really
and reading books.
So this is the view that people get when I'm in the like live podcast, like when I'm in the, deep into it. So yeah. But yeah, I do have quite a few books. It's a big passion of mine. And
Any any recent book you would recommend to our audience?
well, would you like the sort of like fitting to the topic, customer success, customer focused one, or would you like a left field one?
I don't know, like you know our audience. What do you recommend them reading?
Mm, okay, I'm here since this is like a customer topic. I would say I have two really good books that I've been reading, going back to. So one of them is Customer Success. That's been recommended by the customer success sort of lead president at Salesforce, and it's simply called Customer Success. It's a great book. It really makes you understand how to connect the dots with existing customers, product development, and just making sure that you really treat customers as not just an asset, but also as a partner. And this is really what we've been doing here at WunderGraph. I really like this book. For anyone interested, that's a great topic. And then I really love this O'Reilly book from the Lean series. It's called Lean Customer Development from their Lean series. And it really talks about how to bring in a lot of learnings from your customers back into product, which is, I feel, what we've been doing with Hub. For the past year, we've been kind of like referring back to our existing customer base with our champions, the technical advisory board members, and really taking that voice back into product development. And this is really a book that kind of like maps it out. And so, yeah, we've been living it.
You mentioned earlier you are almost a year with WunderGraph. How was WunderGraph when you joined?
It's a very interesting question that I've not reflected on. I think I kind of tend to go with the flow and kind of like get heads down on work and really just, you have your hands full in a startup. You always have something to do, projects to run or to actually create from scratch, because in startup we are creating the path we're walking as we're walking and as we're running in cases. So I would say one of the sort of big, I think the big sort of realization when I started was the energy of the team and the passion that everyone has in the product that we're building. I think it's contagious, and it's one of those things that we have done such a great job at translating it at the customer level. We are very much engineering first. We kind of like immerse ourselves in customer problems and try to come out with solutions that are supporting their day-to-day in our space. And yeah, as that energy is contagious, it really are absolutely sort of leaving it, breathing it, and trying to improve things as you go along. So I have to say that was the first kind of impression I had, and that sort of like stayed as the weeks and months went by. And looking back and reflecting to now, I think we are in a certainly more mature stage of our journey. I think the learnings that we took from customers over the past few months as well in Hub have been absolutely instrumental at, ensuring we had a successful launch. Yeah, I would say it's been a pretty great growth. How's it been from your perspective?
I don't know. The year flew by so fast. For a very long time, I kind of lived in the future of WunderGraph. Like for many years, the dream was always to create a hub to take Federation to the next level. And it was a little bit of a struggle to match the vision with the reality. And I think we have made great progress on the product side. But also, I really think the company has matured a lot. Like a year ago, many things were very chaotic, and a lot of people wore a lot of hats, which in some sense it is good, but it also meant, for example, we had a shared function of support responsibility across the entirety of the engineering team. It is great to have everybody doing support. You learn a lot. Everybody gets involved with the customers, but there's a certain scale of the customer spectrum where you can't do that anymore. And yeah, I think you did a massive transition into organizing customer success and actually making success. And what else can I say? I think we are in the most interesting time because what we're doing is so close to AI, and AI needs data. And for many years, we have built a solution that, through Federation, connects all different systems into a graph. And we always built that with the idea that this graph will be used by humans. And the more humans you have, the bigger that problem, and the more you need collaboration and governance, which is why we built Hub. And now you add AI, and suddenly usage is actually exploding, collaboration is exploding, and you need even more governance because you can't just have Claude agents build whatever. So in a sense, I think we're extremely lucky that we survived all the way until this point. Like many startups, they go out of the race just because bad timing. And I think we have absolutely super nice timing, and I couldn't be more excited for this year because I feel like we have built like all the foundations, and now we're diving deeper into AI. So yeah, I'm excited. But
I was going
sorry,
to
go ahead.
I really find very telling for our path how close we've kept to customers and prospects alike, to try and understand their true pain points. Because with AI, I think it's there is such a nice feeling to kind of temptation to kind of just adopt it and run with it without remembering the human collaboration aspect that still remains. And that element needs to be facilitated, not hindered, not forgotten. And that's truly where a lot of innovation comes from, not just the AI usage per se, but really people coming together from different functions, really understanding their own customer problem, their own domain problem, and then trying to hash together a solution. And for that solution to be sustainable, it needs to have some form of governance, some form of discoverability, and also facilitating that collaboration so that it's replicable, it's scalable. It's not one of those one-shot solutions that you try once and then you forget about for the rest of the year. So I think that's also the point where we've really kept so close to customers to truly understand in the age of AI, what's changing, what's truly disrupting the work, and what really needs to be protected and facilitated. So yeah, I'm really proud of that, the work we've done as a team.
I would also add like for me, one of the big success criteria for why we do what we do and why it works. 3 out of 4 founders meet with customers every week, and there's no exception. And the fourth founder is focused on operations, legal, HR, like everything internal. It simply isn't a customer facing function, which is totally fine. But everybody else, I think we never shied away from customers. And even contrary, I think one of our core values is that we're extremely interested in talking to customers and improving. And I think we're very self-reflective. Like we are, I think we're quite good at what we're doing, but at the same time we are how do you say, like we are uh we're kind of relaxed, and we are always open to being proven wrong or to learning, or like I think we know when we should listen. And yeah, I think one of our core values, like I really like to take inspiration from, like, not specifically the person Jeff Bezos, but I like some of the things or some of the ways Jeff thinks about customer focus. I also really like how Steve Jobs was always like absolutely crazy about customers and the problem, not so much the solution. And I learned a lot from that. And yeah, I'm not so I'm not so closely tied to the solution we're building, but rather I'm super interested in what are the problems of the customers, and how can we help, and
Yeah.
how can we create value for them, right?
Yeah. I like that because, in a way, being too closely coupled with the solution really fossilizes you, really sort of crystallizes you in time. And we've seen as well with AI and with changes in the way technology is adopted that we have to be fluid in the way we adopt technology, but also the solutions that we give have to be flexible to the ever-changing ways of working. And so I think, was it like Ericsson or Motorola that kind of simply said, like, we created a wonderful product, and then people started using iPhones, and then, all our domain just was wiped away because technology simply evolved and left us behind. We left ourselves behind because we did not adopt to what customers were saying, to what the ever-changing demands of the market were. And I find it very, very important. And I think we have kind of like a luxury of having that at startup level. We don't have these bloated teams. We don't have these huge dependencies on technologies. We're crafting our path in a very sustainable way. And I think that's a superpower we have as a company at WunderGraph. Would you say that's sort of also what you take on that?
I think on the tech side, I think it was also, or to me it sounded like the story of the BlackBerry. And the BlackBerry CEO, he was like, no, I like my mechanical keyboard. I will never have a phone without a mechanical keyboard. And in our realm, we are in the API space. We're in the GraphQL space, GraphQL Federation. And I like technology, but and this is something I keep saying for quite a long time. I'm an API ambassador. Like, I'm pro API. I'm not versus REST or versus something. Or for me, it doesn't matter if you use REST or GraphQL or Federation or something, but use APIs. APIs are right. But for me, it's totally okay if WunderGraph changes what kind of API styles we do, or I don't know, like, as long as it's APIs, it's fine. I mean, we will not make like a super hard pivot to, I don't know, creating footballs or something like that's a bit far fetched. But I think we stay in the API realm. That, and the second thing I wanted to say is, I actually like our customers. So we typically work together with platform engineering teams, and they are quite smart. Like, the people who adopt GraphQL Federation, they are smart people. I don't know, like, yeah, I can sense why, but they are similar to us. They are platform engineers. They build a platform for a very big enterprise, and we like to work with them together. And it's oftentimes it's like a partnership. They have a problem. They are not angry at us if we have a bug or if we have a missing feature. It's more like, hey, how can we figure this out together? And we find a way. And yeah, I enjoy this journey.
Yeah, I think you've built that relationship very early on, at pre-sale level when they're exploring the solution. I think there's a lot of thought leadership pieces from yourselves, from the team that's online, and that really showcases the ethos of WunderGraph as a company. We are not, a corporate reality that just, paving a path and sort of listening a little bit to the market, but kind of going ahead because we're very convinced of what we're doing. But instead, we're very much receptive to the customers, to what we hear the community saying. And I have to say, we work with fantastic customers that are so invested in the product, but moreover, they are invested in the solution that they're providing their organizations. And I can see them every single day coming up with improvements, with ideas, with feedback. And that is such a wonderful place to be for an organization like ours, because we have that constant stream of information of, that pulse on how we're doing, and are we actually delivering something that's making a difference in the day-to-day, or is yet another tool that they're adopting and doesn't really move the needle. So I have to say that it's been incredible. I think we were talking about it yesterday, I think, on the technical advisory board that we run with some customers. That's been one of probably the most impactful activities we've done with customers. And for everyone listening, our boards are these regular sessions we run with some customers that have really expressed a lot of feedback and a lot of interest in kind of helping us shape the direction of the product. And together with Jens, together with the team, kind of meet with us, give us ideas, give us a little bit of unbiased feedback on some of the features that we're thinking of building, on Hub itself. And they've been able to really bake their voice, their experience into the product, because we've created a voice for that. I think some of the initial technical advisory boards that you run, Jens, were without me. Have you seen a change over time? Have you seen the customers kind of getting closer into that feedback loop?
I think you are better at running the tabs, because I have such a strong opinion that I think when I ask people questions, the question is already biased. Like, I can try to be as neutral as I want, but at the same time, I think like your advantages, you're much more focused around the customer and on the customer side, and I'm thinking ahead the product, and sometimes you try to force the customer in a way where, yeah, you would want them to adopt your way, but then you also realize that, yeah, maybe you just do it the customer way, maybe. And I think that's kind of a tricky part in product development. On the one side, like, how many of us actually create an iPhone, in the sense that we're creating a smartphone? Because typically in product development, you want to have something for the customer that is similar enough, but then also better than what is on the market. But if it's just better than what is on the market, it might be so unfamiliar that they struggle to adopt it. So yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but playing the ball back in your court. So you heavily participated in the tabs. What were the most interesting things you learned by doing the tabs? Not just on the product side, but what surprised you the most of doing this kind of close customer research? What did you learn about product development in general, and what did you learn about our specific domain?
It's a great question. As you know, for a period, I sort of focused on user experience, both research and sort of supporting the design of software. And kind of keeping that unbiased stance is quite a muscle that needs to be stretched and grown. And I think being able to sit down with the customer and really focusing on their pain points, being able to really open up to the possibilities out there of what we could deliver was really telling. One, of their investment into the space. I think it's been really good to hear that excitement as well, and some of the features that we were bringing on Hub itself. And it's contagious as well, because being able to share those insights with the rest of the team has been, I think, one of the main fuels that we've been able to share internally. And I think it goes back into product, but it goes back into the company altogether in keeping that voice alive. In terms of things that I learned, I think it became really apparent that the collaboration piece is a big pain point for a lot of organizations. There's so many different team members with different roles involved into even updating one particular, design or experience for customers. And we realized that thousands of hours can go into these changes and across, 10, 15 colleagues as a minimum. And coordinating all this work is a huge effort, is a huge time sink as well for this team, but also maintaining that documentation, those steps, what's being actually changed. Someone has to do that sort of piece of work, or it's lost, why a decision was made at design level for the experience on your web app, or changing one specific field because you're adapting to your own market. And losing that history can be actually quite a painful experience for companies, because that mistake could be made again. So the coordination, the collaboration piece was definitely something that surprised me. The governance part as well, I think that was where we saw a lot of platform engineers kind of wanting to rein in some of the development work and being able to have those guardrails early enough so that things would not escalate and kind of lead to errors or anti-adoption patterns. And we saw the real need to support that effort, to being able to offer a tool that was, supporting guardrail required. So I think altogether, and you probably will echo me on this, Hub as a combination of both was always receptive really positively, really encouragingly from the very early on. So I think that's probably for every startup out there that's thinking of bringing a new additional product or kind of changing a little bit of status quo of how some development is done. I think tabs and in general, bringing in very early on the customer voice is absolute key.
If you look at the Federation landscape, how do you think Hub will change it?
That's a great question. I think it really depends on the type of organization that is adopting it. Early on, if you're completely having a greenfield project, that might really give you a lot of allowance on how you are, building your federation approach and kind of scaling it. But later on, I think for larger enterprises that are more mature in their federation journey, that's where I think they could simplify certain paths. They could reuse and reduce the API sprawl as well, and kind of like be more efficient in light of the ability to really look at a glance, canvas, how your federation approach is looking like. Being able to also see which team are owning subgraphs and how those subgraphs are evolving over time and how they're feeding back into the federated graph, and being able to really see that approach from top down. I think it's key to fully understanding what all these teams are working towards, rather than having this siloed approach. So I think it will give us some great insight on how Federation is changing their adoption and over time as the maturity scales for these organizations. What are your thoughts on this?
Federation was always, you take subgraphs, you compose them, you get a supergraph. So teams have autonomy, which is great. Teams can have their own tech stack. And at the end of the day, what they produce is a subgraph, we compose them, we have a supergraph. And like I said in the beginning, I'm quite a fan of some of the thinking of Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs always kind of said, you have to start with the problem. And if you think about an API as a product, you should really start with the API as a product with the supergraph, not with the subgraphs. The subgraphs are kind of like the backend. They are the implementation of the contract. But what you want to design is the supergraph. It is the product in the end, and it should be designed to solve the problem. So you go from problem to supergraph. But how do you do that if you have to change the backend, the subgraphs, run composition, and then look at what kind of supergraph did I get by changing my subgraph? So for me, it always felt like a little bit backward that we go from subgraphs, we compose, we go to supergraph. So the supergraph, the product, it was kind of like a side effect. It's the outcome of composition versus the way how I think API development should go is you take the problem and you're thinking about, okay, for this kind of problem, how would the queries need to look like? And then you have those queries and you can say, okay, to make these queries work, what kind of supergraph do I need? Now you have your supergraph. And then you start thinking about, okay, what subgraphs could implement the fields that I just added or changed or whatever, which also, from my perspective, if you start with the subgraph, you are kind of biased because you're saying, oh, I already have made my decision. I have my solution. Now I want to get it all the way through and push that into production. But maybe it was a bad idea to put it into that subgraph in the first place. But you know how we are. Like if we make a decision, like engineers, if they say, oh, I create a new subgraph, here it is. And then you have to convince them to not do that. It can be hard sometimes. Versus you'd say, hey, this is how I want the supergraph to look like. Can you please open a canvas in Hub and think about, do you want to put that into one subgraph or two or two existing ones? And you stay flexible. And I think that, yeah, like focusing more on the problem, and by focusing on the problem, again, Hub allows you to focus more on the customer or the user of the graph. And I think this is very much in line with how we think. We focus on the problem, we focus on the customer. And so also our solutions should focus on the customer, not on the implementation. So yeah, somehow it just makes sense to do Hub the way we do it.
Yeah, and I think over the past year, we have had, I think, the validation from hundreds and hundreds of individuals that we've discussed this approach with all the customers that we've run our sessions on the tabs. And in general, it's been quite wild, the sort of like recognition in this pattern that we brought on. So I have to say, like, you know me, I'm a very much data first person. And I'm very happy to have seen this sort of validation happen as we were building Hub, as we were keeping, the work going, to see that we were going in the right direction. So it's a very exciting year ahead, for sure.
One of the funniest things that recently happened to us, we had a customer, they did a design session, and they came into the session with, we want to build a new feature. And then in typical fashion, the backend engineers, they started running with the problem. Don't question it too much. Let's take a look at the database. What kind of fields can we expose? And they exposed and added fields, and they expanded the schema and everything. And then someone said, one of our champions, guys, can you hold back for 1 second? Can we talk about the problem? Like, what kind of use case do we want to enable? And we have a flow, we call it the dream query flow, where you can upload a screenshot or a description of what you're trying to do. Essentially, on the left side of the canvas, you kind of position the problem. Then right to the problem, you define a query, and the query kind of links up to the supergraph, and then you can think about the subgraphs and everything. So they put the problem on the canvas, and then they started discussing what kind of queries do they need for that. And surprise, they didn't need to change the graph because they had all that information. But the intuition of the team was to add fields because they thought they need to. But when you actually think about the problem, then you're much more precise, and you're starting to think about like, what do you actually want to have in the contract? And I think for me, over these last couple of years, I learned a lot about API design, and I think, come on, stop this. Yep. I think one of the big learnings is, if you think about your API design and you come with a database view, you have a table and you're like, okay, I have a user table, created at, updated at, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you just put these fields into the schema. And then the client comes, the customer, and they are like, I want to do certain operations, but to do what I want to do, I have to do 2 queries and 1 mutation. And the thing is, these are quite telling scenarios where you kind of figure out that you built an API around your data and not around use cases. You didn't create capabilities. You created like little atomic operations, almost granular like a REST API, and they don't really enable the customer. And what happens then is the customer adds orchestration into their client. So the complexity that you didn't take on, you didn't do your homework, you didn't create a great API for the actual use case. So now they have to do that integration work in their client. And that creates bad user experiences, because let's say you add something to the shopping cart, and to do that, you need to do 2 queries and 1 mutation. Maybe something fails in the middle, and now the outcome is, oh, blip, error, whatever. Wouldn't it be better if you had just like a single call? You can make that. If it fails, the backend can retry. You don't even notice, but you get a result. And yeah, I think these are like, we really like APIs, and we like to enable these kind of use cases. And I really hope that we can help more people with Hub to build better APIs, to reduce API sprawl, like that you don't duplicate all the things, but you reuse what you have because it's easier to discover. And at the end of the day, like what drives us in doing and building Hub is we want to help people build better APIs and get ready for the AI wave. And I'm enjoying the ride. What about you?
Likewise, and I think it was really important what you said, starting with the problem. What problem are we solving with this particular, approach, or with what we're doing? And I think in the canvas, the ability to really visualize the problem and kind of collaborate around it, not only kind of keeps the customer, the user, the use case, the problem in the room with the users, but also kind of gives a historical artifact on what the work is all about. And the ability to commentary, to add, notes, to be able to really add on some specific reasoning behind why certain API design choices were made, and being able to translate that to a point where even a UI designer could come in and kind of like look at the particular way we are, working on the front-end problem, etc. Being able to do that and historically record that information is important. One, to reduce that API sprawl, to reuse what it's currently already being worked on and delivered, especially in an age where we have a bigger focus on speed of delivery And at that speed of retrieval, it shouldn't be compromised with, forgetting about all the groundwork and all the existing team approaches that have been done. So I think it's absolutely fitting with the new wave of, AI adoption. I think there's not a single customer we worked with that is not using AI, which is absolutely telling as well on where everything is heading towards. But being able to participate into that sensible AI wave with API design, best practices in mind, is absolutely key. Yeah.
I think it's also important as you want to evolve your API. Let's say you have a graph and all you have is the schema and it sits in GitHub in schema files somewhere. And from time to time you change it and you compose it and you have your super graph. Do you actually understand all the capabilities this graph provides? And I'm not talking about fields it has. I'm talking about capabilities. Like what are the problems I can solve with this graph? What are the use cases you enable with the graph? And have like one page where you can say, these are the 100 use cases you can do with the graph we're enabling. And now we add one more use case. And then we can use like LLMs and whatever and figure out, okay, by adding this use case, how should the graph look like? And I think most of our APIs that we have in the world, nobody actually knows what are the use cases. Because nobody keeps kind of track of that. And I think this is with Hub, we have like a blank canvas to really to pull off collaboration and governance, because I would absolutely love to see at some point in the future that you can really map, like, here are all the use cases, these are the capabilities, they map to queries, they map to supergraph, they map to subgraphs. Because that means, imagine you have a subgraph and you can track it all the way through the supergraph to the queries to the capabilities, and you can see end to end, my subgraph is responsible for 20 out of 500 capabilities in our bank, in our company, whatever. And it is very clear what is the value, what is the contribution. If the subgraph is down, what kind of capabilities in the company will be affected. This kind of mapping, I think in many ways today, it is super intransparent. You have open API specs, you have them somewhere in a portal. Nobody knows exactly who's using the API. You don't exactly know what for. You also don't know why this API exists. Like, everybody's afraid of removing APIs because, I don't know, somebody could use it and you don't know why they use it. And it's not just, let's say you have an API and at some point you want to sunset it and replace it with something else, but you keep seeing people using it. There's a difference between using it, sending traffic, or we actually have a better API for them to use. But our company is so big, we're just afraid of removing old stuff. And I've seen many companies who have the same API in different shapes 3 times in different teams, and nobody talks. And
Yes.
yeah, but I think we have a long way to go. This was a big step forward. Viola, thank you for joining today. Thank you for your hard work in helping us with all these great customer relationships, and thank you for helping with Hub. Any last words? Any closing thoughts?
Well, it's been an absolutely fantastic year together, and I think what I witnessed at WunderGraph, I worked in a few startups before, and I think I saw really team cohesion. I saw customer dedication across the board, not just in customer success. I saw that in the founders as well, and I think what we're building is the start of something that will really grow with the new ways of working, both in API design, management, and lifecycle management, if you will. And I'm so excited about seeing where the next wave will come and how it will look like, but I'm super keen to be part of it. So yeah, it's been an awesome journey so far.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks again for joining today. We will definitely bring you back on the stream at some point.
I'll have more book recommendations for next time.
Okay, awesome. So have a good day, and I catch you tomorrow, I think, with Dustin, our CTO. And on Friday, we are back with David, where we talk about Fission, the all new algorithm behind the hub, because we had to build a completely new algorithm to actually make hub a reality. So yeah, exciting week, and I catch you soon. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye-bye.